So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to today's session with Monika Halan on her best-selling book, Let's Talk Money. I'm Dr. Rachna Singh, and I promise you this is going to be a financially liberating and empowering session for all of you because Monika's book demystifies and simplifies complex issues pertaining to personal finance, and it empowers even the most untutored to go ahead and take charge of their personal financial well-being. So welcome to the session,
Thank you
Monika.
so much. Delighted to be here. All the readers of Let's Talk Money and all the people who want to build financial stability.
So despite the rather daunting, subject of the session, we have a full house, which is wonderful, which means that more of you are interested in being financially literate. So without further ado, I'll just dive into the conversation. So Monika, let me start with an icebreaker of a question. You've written a series of books on, subjects like personal finance, where you simplify personal finance, and you talk about the pros and cons of various investment options and asset classes, You've written Let's Talk Money, and you've written Let's Talk Mutual Funds, you've written Let's Talk Legacy. So tell us what made you embark upon this journey to make your reader financially literate?
I'll have to go back 30 years, where I was a postgraduate from the Delhi School of Economics. I could do 5 pages of econometric solutions, but when I graduated, it was a great place. I learned a lot. But when I graduated, I had no idea how to write a check. I had no idea what the Indian budget meant. I had absolutely no idea of what money is. When the first salary began to come in, I didn't know what to do with it. So it was my own trial and error which got me to do something. But I think the changing moment was when I joined a magazine. So in India, there wasn't a genre called personal finance. There were stock tip magazines. Intelligent Investor was launching in 1998. And I just happened to, through a series of coincidences, I landed up there not really knowing what personal finance was. And this is 98. Your economy has just opened up. Home loans were not such a thing. It wasn't like nothing used to happen in the country. Okay, we've grown up in the socialist years, nothing. Yeah. And then slowly, as privatization took place, I was, I think, one of the first few people to understand personal finance in India, because I was working in the magazine. And then I said, I am only 2 questions deep. I don't know the answer to the 3rd and 4th. I need to be 10 questions deep. Mm-hmm. So then I studied more. I passed exams. I did my CFP. I basically learned the nitty-gritty. I was not a finance person. I was an economics person. So learned that. And along that journey, along being a journalist in personal finance, I realized that there is a gap between policy, what policymakers, government think of us as consumers of retail finance, and what we actually do. Yeah. Our behavior is very, very, very different. They don't understand it. So a part of the work really has also been to build a bridge to take our issues to regulators and government and say, this is how it affects us. And so basically the journey has been like a 360-degree thing for me. So one part is the communication with people on the ground of finance as it affects and I put myself in this category because we are all like middle-class people, right? We weren't born with crores. I have built it up myself. And then I felt that I have benefited from all of this because I put to use the learnings that I got. Let me try and see if there is something I can do. So I think Bhagavad Gita says one thing, that the intention of something is very important. Yeah. The way that I have seen Let's Talk Money reach the hearts, it's a book on money, like how can it touch you in your heart? But I think the intent with which I wrote Let's Talk Money was an intent of help. An intent of let me share my learning, let me reach out. And I think that has really resonated. Yeah. So that's really the journey, that the intention is that it's not difficult. And one more thing I want to say, this is not my entire life, okay? I don't think about money all day, my personal money. I think about education. Yeah. I do what I tell you to do in the book. Finance is an enabler for other things in life, whether it's a sport or music or spirituality, whatever it is. Like even if you want to want to pick another path, a deeper path to life, you need to have the money to sustain your family. I mean, you cannot abdicate that responsibility. So money for me is an enabler. We don't think about oxygen, we just breathe. You shouldn't be thinking about money all the time. My idea is that if I can give you financial stability, it might free up your time, mind space, to go to higher things in life. Because we are grappling so much with these decisions around finance. So that's really the story. The big picture of what I do is I want to free you from this constant worry about money so you can have other thoughts. This is not your entire life. It is in the background.
So we are glad you took that plunge, Monika. So now talking about your book. In your book, Monika, you talk about the necessity for a robust cash system, and you talk about a money box approach to personal finance. So for a lot of us who are not familiar with this concept of money box, could you talk about it and tell us why you think it is so effective and successful?
So again, I'll give you a big picture view. So you're all readers of Let's Talk Money, a lot of you are. So the idea is that I'm trying to nudge people into taking structured risk, okay? So I'm giving you the thought behind the book. I'm telling you why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want you to take structured risk. I don't want you to day trade. I don't want you to do F&O. But I want you to take structured risk through the product called mutual funds, investing in equity for your long-term wealth creation, okay? So that's what I really want you to do. But before you can do that, before the future, you need to secure your today. My present is so important. I need to be able to secure that. For that, I use the money box approach and give you a seat belt approach. I'm saying, I'm going to use various seat belts to secure my place today, so that when I invest for the future, that money is allowed to work long term. So the first one is an efficient cash flow system, which is separating out your spending from your saving. It's a very simple idea, but the feedback to me, and I use it personally in my own life, is that it's hugely empowering. The fact that you use 3 bank accounts, all of your income falls into one. One account is the spending account. You spend out of that. And the third account is your investing account. You begin to build your savings through that. So at a glance, you're able to separate out your spending and saving. So you can never say, I don't know where my money goes. Because the minute you have clear oversight, you know where it's going. You're spending this much. So at every point, I'm trying to put control in your hands, decisions in your hands, to say, it is my desire that I'm going to move savings from a residue to a target. That is a fundamental change in my attitude. I will move savings from being leftover, what is leftover in the month, to a target. I will target 5%, 10%, ratios are yours, of my income every month to first go into my invested account, and then I will guilt-free spend the rest. I'm not against spending. Please spend. But spend guilt-free after you have decided to save the ratio that you want to save. So that's the first sort of seat belt that I say, that at least get in control of your cash flows.
So I'm sure a lot of us are going to go home and start making our money boxes,
certainly hope so.
Separately, savings separately, So, okay, Monika, when I read books on personal finance, the focus predominantly is on investment strategies with a focus on earning quick money. But in your book, in your preface, you specifically say that that is not what your book is all about. It is about financial empowerment, you know. And you also talk about a holistic kind of financial well-being. Then you talk about how the investment has to be tailored to the investor's needs. You also say that we need to keep redoing the money box, you know, as we maybe grow older or as our circumstances change. So tell us, how did you zero in on this unusual, I would say, approach for people who handle personal finance?
I think if you keep engaging with the subject deeply enough, so there's a superficial engagement with something, but if you engage deeply, at some point, it tells you its own secrets.
Yeah.
And also you use it yourself. It's not for others. This is what I do. So, do we change our diets from being 18 years old to 40 to 75?
Yeah.
Does the diet change? It does. Should the approach to money change? The runway ahead of a 25-year-old person in terms of life and earning, and for a 60-year-old person are very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So your asset allocation has to be different. Your
I agree, totally.
split between equity and debt will be different, simply because at 25, you're going to be building your assets.
Right.
At 60, 65, you're going to be eating out of the assets.
Yes.
So of course it will differ.
Yes.
So just that understanding that life is not static. Life is a moving thing. We change, circumstances change, stuff happens. Everybody has complicated lives.
You're right.
So a person with parents to look after, a spouse and children, will have a very different risk appetite than a two-income, no kids, no dependents family. Their risk capacity is far higher. So again and again, the book tells you that your story is unique. Don't do a cookie-cutter approach. Use the system that I'm building to personalize it. Okay, I'm showing you a broad direction, north by northwest. But the exact path is yours.
Right.
So it somewhere sort of resonates very closely with the whole spiritual texts also, right? That each person's path may be different.
Right.
So they show you the direction, they say you take your path. This is so similar.
Yes.
I don't know. Let's Talk Money is what, 1.2 lakh people have bought the book.
Wow.
These 1.2
Amazing.
lakh people
Amazing.
will have different lives.
Yes.
So it cannot be one. So I will never give you 5 funds to buy.
Right.
Okay, I think it's an insult to your intelligence and mine to say, okay, these are the 5 funds. It cannot work like that.
Right.
Because I don't know your age, stage, situation, other assets, liabilities, I don't know. So it has to be your decision. So again, it's like, parenting. Transfer the responsibility. Because as long as you're responsible, the kid will never learn.
Yeah.
Right? So that was my lesson, my learning as a parent was also that if you are transferring responsibility, you're actually empowering people with skills that will last them a lifetime.
Right.
You don't have to keep coming back to me. If you personalize the system, you have something which can last you for your entire life. You don't have to constantly come back and do a new course, next 5 funds, what now? That what now should not happen, because I'm hoping that when you use this, you do the work. So I've done some part of the work. A lot of work has to be done by you
Right. Right.
in terms of using and then personalizing the system.
So, Monika, when you and I grew up, I think predominantly the investment options used to be FDs, gold, real estate. But now people are moving away from this rather risk-averse, conservative approach to, exploring investment options like, say, equity or mutual funds. So why do you think this transition in the investment landscape happened?
I think it's a deeper thing. We've moved from being a socialist country. So when I grew up in the 70s, there was nothing. Okay, very little opportunity, very little money, very little products in the market.
Right.
So I call my generation, we are the people with the poverty mindset. But
True.
a lot of you, millennials, Gen Z, you're the people with the abundance and the wealth attitude. Right. Your outlook towards life is very different than ours. So I think along with a confidence in the future comes the ability to take risk. We were one job loss away from genteel poverty. Okay, if you lost that job, it was not a nice future.
Yeah.
But this generation is hopping jobs, it's getting opportunities, they're doing gig, they're doing different things. So I think it's also a changing nation, which is moved from being a poor country to a low middle-income country. We've transformed. So I think it's a reflection, this risk-taking ability. Why is it that more people take home loans today in their 20s and 30s? You are leveraging future income. You have so much confidence in your ability to earn that you are taking these loans today to buy assets.
Right.
I mean, we took a loan in our 40s.
Yeah.
Okay, because who knew how long that income would last? So I think it's a hugely positive sign
Right.
that risk-taking ability has grown. But my only caution is don't take loans for current consumption. Keep the loans for asset building. Build assets out of your loans. Don't take loans for current consumption. That is harmful.
Right, right. So in your book, you also analyze the pros and cons of various investment options. But what emerges from the narrative is that you think that the better investment options now, today, are, say, equity or mutual funds or equity traded funds, ETFs. So why do you think that?
So I'll just give you a very quick finance 101. When savings turn to investments, they do through 3 routes: through debt, through equity, and through real assets. Debt is your fixed deposit, PPF, anything which has fixed interest, okay? So your routes to turn savings to investments is debt, equity, and real assets like gold and real estate. In my crypto is not an asset till there is regulation, okay? So it's off the table for me. Now, equity, so you can approach all 3 asset classes, these are asset classes, through a product called mutual funds. So mutual funds is not just equity. It'll give you debt funds. There are, I think, 16 categories of debt funds, 11 categories of equity funds. It'll give you hybrids. You have access to gold and silver, and through REITs to real estate, right? So mutual fund emerges as this vehicle to connect you to different asset classes, which you can use to build your portfolio. Why do I recommend mutual funds? So I have worked on the other side with the regulators, trying to make the product safe from fraud and companies messing with costs, incentives, tinkering with the innards of the product. So I have been associated with SEBI for over 15 years in different committees, mutual fund committee, other committees. So I can say with confidence that nobody will ever run away with your money. Right? So it's a retail-ready product with caps on what they can charge, defined categories of what you're buying is what you get, okay? And a huge amount of regulatory oversight, which is why it is the product for retail investors. So just understand that equity is not mutual funds. Mutual fund is a vehicle which gets you debt, equity, mixtures of these, gold, silver, and real estate. It's a vehicle. SIP is not a product in itself. It's a way to invest into a particular scheme.
Right, right. So some people have been a little wary about mutual funds, you know. Their worry is that, first of all, the entry and exit depends on the fund manager. And then they seem to feel that also they need to pay that 1 to 2% to the fund manager.
There's no front cost. So mutual funds in 2009 went no load, which means that 100 rupees invested by you, 100 rupees goes to work, other than a small 0.005 stamp duty, which the central government collects. It's not a commission. So India was one of the first countries in the world to go no load. 100 rupees invested, 100 rupees goes to work. In an insurance policy, 100 rupees invested, sometimes 0 rupees go to work. Sometimes 30 rupees go to work. In a ULIP, maybe 80 rupees go to work. 20 rupees is the commission. So compare it with other products in the market to see that the regulator in 2009 made the product so that your entire money goes to work. There is something called a cost-expense ratio because finally it's a business. They need to run it. They need to earn profits. Profits are good things. We like profits, but profits have to be under some cost caps. So don't grudge the expense ratio because the regulator is sitting and looking at the expense ratio. And we've been through a process of reducing the expenses over the years. Then the choice is for the investor to go directly, which has no commission, or through an agent, where the commission is embedded in the price and the mutual fund compensates the distributor.
Yeah.
So if the distributor is giving a good service, etc., I think don't grudge him that commission. But if you are able to manage your portfolio, do your asset allocation yourself, go direct.
Yeah,
So these are the
instead of
different,
SIPs,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm sure that's going to assuage some worries.
So costs are there,
Yeah.
they are under the scrutiny of the regulator.
Right. So we are left with 5 minutes. We could either have a question answer session here, or we could go to the
I think
audience for
open it up.
questions.
Yeah.
So what would you prefer? A QA
Questions.
session now? Should we?
Yeah, let's open it
Okay.
up, yeah.
So over to the audience then.
Very good evening to all of you. Ma'am, you talk strongly about financial empowerment. I think in this country and even outside the country, financial empowerment is obviously extremely important for everybody, but I see a huge gap in financial empowerment for men and for women.
Good question.
I would really like to understand, ma'am, in all these years of you being involved in this subject, what do you think are the real reasons why so many women shy away from managing their money? They're earning money, but they're not ready to manage their money. They're relying on a male family member most of the time.
Father, brother, son,
Correct.
husband.
Yes,
Correct.
absolutely, absolutely.
So what do you
So
think?
two reasons, I'll tell you very quickly, two reasons. One is the way the society has been, where women ran the house. So when the decision is in thousands, the money was hers. But when the decision is in lakhs and crores and long term, the men took that decision. So that's the way it's, see, every society has a way that it has evolved. That's the way it's evolved here, that the men took these decisions. So she is excluded out of the conversation in the home on money matters. In business families, they find it useful not to tell the girl child the assets so that the assets go down the male line. Okay, it's a harsh truth. We need to
Right.
accept that. And then we know the data on how much housework the men share in India in a married situation where they're partners. So we know that Indian men don't really participate in the house. The burden really falls on the woman. So she's managing the job, the kids, the extended family, and the home. The one job that the man will take over is financial management, and she is extremely relieved to give that away because she's full. She's got too much going on. My communication is that's the one job you keep.
Exactly.
Outsource
Yes.
laundry.
Three cheers to that. Three cheers to that.
Outsource cooking. Don't hesitate to hire help so that you get that time in your day, in your week, in your month to spend time in at least understanding. You don't have to manage it. Can you have a conversation once in 6 months to say, what are the assets, where are we investing, in whose name are these assets built during our marriage?
Right.
Not before. That is a conversation for you to have, that assets built before the marriage can belong to either one, but those built during marriage should be together.
Even
right?
for housewives.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Of
For
course.
Yes.
More for housewives.
Right.
Look, the fact that she's at home is allowing him to go to work, and in many cases, the fact that she goes to work allows him to stay at home and possibly look after the... So now, in a lot of ways, it's both. So whoever is in the non-paying job, his or her interests have to be looked after.
Right.
And that division in the West is half and half. We don't have community of marital property in India, which means assets in a marriage belong to he or she who pays for it
Right.
during the marriage.
Right.
Assets built before are different during the marriage. So therefore, it's important for the person not earning to know what are the assets, in whose name, where is the paperwork, what do I own. The women might feel like a gold digger. Like, these are difficult conversations. I think you need to have them. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
you.
At the back.
Ma'am, thank you for the opportunity. First of all, I would like to say that I have read both the books on Let's Talk Money and Mutual Funds. And I have learned more from these two books than I learned from Psychology of Money and Think and Grow Rich.
It's all different genres. I mean, it's part of the puzzle.
Yes.
So I think each one has a role to play.
Right. So ma'am, my question to you is, I have started investing after reading a book. And I feel sad at the same time that why was I not taught or why did I not learn about these concepts before? So how do you look at educational institutions, both at a primary, secondary, and tertiary levels, taking steps to make citizens better financially aware?
So it's happening. It's beginning to come into the school curriculums. MBA schools, a lot of them have a full paper on personal finance. And I found to my horror, well, actually not horror, but like delight, that Let's Talk Money is a prescribed reading book in the MBAs, in many of them, right? Because there isn't a text. So it's beginning to happen. I think for it to be fully part of the curriculum will take time, but that process has started. The awareness is far more. We are far more open about talking about money now than we were earlier. See, when you're poor, we were generationally poor. कुछ बात करने को ही नहीं है ना, है ही नहीं. Like the only conversation की नहीं है. So thank God we're able to talk about it now.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Any more questions? Yeah. I think we're going to be able to take just one more question. Barely. Can we have a last one? Yeah.
Would you consider investing in crypto? If yes, why? If no, why not?
So I'll tell you, I want to invest in things that I understand. I don't understand where the value of cryptocurrency comes from. So when I buy a bond, there's an underlying loan. There's a borrower, there's a lender, there's a price of the loan, which is interest. The price of the bond can go up and down according to the health of the company who has issued the bond. There is an economic logic there. When there's a stock, there's an underlying company making goods and services, making profits and losses. A crypto is a digital token. Its value today comes from demand and supply, which people say also is the case for gold, right? So they say the pushback to me is gold. So my only answer is the day that the central bank of a viable large country, democracy, uses crypto as a reserve currency, for me that day it becomes an asset. Okay, so it's not an asset because one, it's not regulated in India. So you've heard of what's happened with the exchanges. They have appropriated. It would have never happened in a regulated product under SEBI. They just appropriated the balances to pay for their stolen cryptos, right? Who are you trusting? Investment is not the product itself. It's also the pipelines to the product. What are the mechanisms for dispute redressal? Who do you go and fight with? That's why regulation is important. Right? So there's regulation, and also the value will come the day it becomes part of a reserve currency.